Welcome back, everyone. We move on to the next session now. The title of this session is Regional Security Issues, Challenges and Opportunities, India. And I invite General Patankar to introduce the session chair and the speaker.
After that fascinating first session, we are now ready for the second one, which I'm sure is going to be equally fascinating. To conduct that session, I have an eminent journalist. In fact, I don't know what to call him, whether he's a strategic thinker more than the journalist now, or in any case, what counts most is he's a very good friend of mine. For me, that counts more than anything else. And I've known him over the years. Earlier, I used to say about him, whenever I had to introduce him to somebody else, I used to say, you know, he's a Northeast expert, particularly Assam. He speaks fluent Assamese, spent 23 years in the Northeast. And the introduction I used to give used to be, what he doesn't know about the Northeast is not worth knowing. He knows that area so well, and not just Assam, but all the Seven Sisters. He's now a very prominent strategic analyst, particularly in South Asia, I would say, widely recognized as an author, written several books, and all his books have been, well, short of bestsellers, I guess. Sought after speaker at many military institutions where he is part of the fixed agenda. He goes and addresses the High Command course, the Staff College course, and amongst many others. Also the NDC, for that matter. He has founded websites which are defense, or I would say security-oriented, not only defense-oriented. Bharat Shakti, and of course now his dimensions have gone far and wide, and he Sorry about that. Okay. Beyond his role as an author, Nitin Gokhale serves as visiting faculty, as I've just mentioned, and all the three services, seek his views all the time. Many of you would have seen him for the first time in great prominence during the Kargil War. He covered that war extensively on TV, and that was our first television war, as it was called. It was so visible, in fact, at times too visible for comfort. But then that's when you must have seen him. And of course, I've seen him and interacted with him for years together in J&K. Without further ado, Nitin, would you please take the chair?
So many mentors here in the room, seniors, some colleagues, that it's like being home. In any case, I'm a member of the PIC, so it's homecoming, although I live in Delhi. And thank you very much, sir, for your warm words and appreciation. It's been, 40 years of doing this. And it's over the years, most of you have helped me understand the security, national security spectrum, and the entire, I would say, policy making or the events that happen. So I'm grateful for that. But let me start by first inviting our two speakers, Colonel Nalin Herath from Sri Lanka and Admiral Rawat from Bangladesh. If you can join, both of you, if you can join me here. And then I'll introduce you as we go along. But please welcome them, Admiral Rawat from Bangladesh, and Colonel Nalin Herath is the current spokesperson of the Sri Lankan Ministry of Defense. and also an author. But I'll introduce him in a little more detail. And the thing that we are going to talk about, of course, in this session, as already been mentioned, is regional security issues, challenges, and opportunities. Now, if you look back just to in the last decade or little more, let me start with Bangladesh, for instance. The security issues between India and Bangladesh have been long-standing, not now. They've been, actually, if you go back to the 50s and the 60s, Indian insurgent groups from the northeast used to get shelter in what was then East Pakistan and then later Bangladesh. And had it not been for Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's government in 2011-12, India would not have captured or arrested, as they say, many of the insurgent leaders of the United Liberation Front of Assam or the NDFB, the National Democratic Front of Bodoland, and many others from, in fact, the UNLF chairman, UNLF was recently in the news from Manipur. They all had taken shelter in Bangladesh. They were running businesses. They were actually running arms consignments from Chittagong to northeast for many years. And it was her government that allowed or did cooperation with India, gave information to India, and all that shelters and the help that was there from Bangladesh or some of the elements in Bangladesh, inimical elements, has vanished. So for that, India has to be grateful, is grateful, I think, for what has happened on that front. And if you look at the continuing cooperation on terrorism, counterterrorism, intelligence sharing, that is going on very well. But that does not mean that India and Bangladesh don't have problems. There are problems. There are still elements on both sides which don't want the relations to be as smooth as they are. I think one of the most successful land boundary agreements and maritime boundary agreements by India has been done with Bangladesh. A lot of give and take. And of course, India's role in the 71 liberation of East Pakistan is well known. I don't need to repeat that. Many of you have probably participated in it. But the current status, if India-Bangladesh status has to be talked about, I think there are more positives than negatives. One positive is, of course, about the transit facilities that has been granted by Bangladesh to northeastern states wanting to connect to rest of India. I won't call it mainland India. That's one misnomer or one mistake that all of us make, that northeast and mainland India, mainstream India. No, I think that's also part of India. So rest of India. And so it facilitates easier trade, movement of goods, people, connectivity with railways through Bangladesh, connecting. I think there are three connectivity projects that have sort of taken off between India and Bangladesh. Is the Chittagong, Akhura, Agartala rail connectivity, and also the transit, which helps both the countries, as was mentioned, that it has to be a win-win for both countries. Coming to Sri Lanka, India was in a very difficult position during Ilam War 4 between 2006 and 2009 because of coalition compulsions, domestic political compulsions in India. India couldn't openly support or give arms or ammunition to Sri Lanka that time. But I'm personally aware, because I covered that conflict for NDTV, and I've written a book about it, that India gave a lot of intelligence, helped in targeting or locating LTT ammunition dumps and LTT arms ships, and going right far up to the eastern coast of, the western coast of Australia, and destroying some of the floating armories that LTT was parking in those areas. So security cooperation with Sri Lanka has also been great, except for that wrinkle in IPKF between 87 and 90, 1987 and 1990. And the Easter bombing case, for instance, in April 2018, right? 2018 was a case of missed opportunities. Indian intelligence had shared precise intelligence with the Sri Lankan authorities about the possibility of five-star hotels being targeted. And for some reason, it wasn't acted upon. And then Sri Lanka lost more than 300 people in those bombings that time. So it's up and down, like a large family. If South Asia is seen as a large family, there are ups and downs, there are irritants, there are squabbles, there are issues, and it continues in the sense the journey continues. Connectivity projects which Sri Lanka have begun now, ferry services after a long time in connecting Tamil Nadu and Sri Lanka. Jaffna Airport has become active again. So there is a stake for both the countries in for prosperity going further. And I would therefore urge both our speakers to speak about both the positives as well as what negatives you think are there in the relationship and what can we do to improve. So let me first call Admiral Awal from Bangladesh, a very distinguished career not just in the Navy but in the diplomatic service. He was defense attaché in Sri Lanka, Bangladesh defense attaché in Sri Lanka, and also ambassador to Maldives, Bangladesh ambassador to Maldives, who knows the region very well, knows each of the main players in the political circles in both these countries, apart from India, of course. And he was sharing his experience. He came to Pune exactly 40 years ago in 1983 as a young officer. So welcome back again to Pune, and may I invite you to now speak to us for about 15 minutes, maybe, and then I'll go to Nalin. Floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Chair. Lieutenant General Patinkar, General Officer Commanding in Chief, Ambassador Gautam Bambanwala, and I must mention General Mehta, because he is our war hero. That's, we have to. And distinguished audience here, it's very privileged, and I thank PIC for inviting me to this gathering. So what Session Chair has mentioned about our relationship, and India-Bangladesh relationship is, I must say, that it is an epitome of the neighborhood. It has gone through various phases, and the starting point is the War of Liberation of 1971. You see, General Mehta has mentioned that about the just war. So I was in the United States for a course conducted by the US Justice Department on conducting warfare in accordance with the law. So there, this question came about the just war. I just mentioned, like General Mehta, that to my assessment, there is only one war, which was, to the point, as per Geneva Convention, humanitarian law, then law of armed conflict, all protocols, everything that was complied with. And it had a beginning, it had a short span, 9 months with the Bangladeshi Mukti force, and Indian humanitarian intervention, as ambassadors mentioned, for 13 days. And it had a conclusion which changed the South Asia forever. It's a new South Asia that started from 1971. Now there are, varying narratives for that. If you hear the Pakistani narrative, then it was a nice country, we are happily living, and then India came, it was looking for an opportunity, so in 1971, it just chopped our great Pakistan into two. That is one. General Bajwa, when he was retiring, you must have heard, he was giving a sort of his assertion about his career and the sort of load he was carrying. What he said that, in 1971, he said that I could not say this thing when I'm in service. In 1971, Pakistan Army did not lose. Pakistan Army did nothing wrong. It's the politician who did wrong. So you see a country, born through bluff and falsehood, and ends with what General has said rightly, that, Pakistan Army, which did genocide, rape, arson, you say anything General Mehta has seen for himself. No atrocity was left. And he is defending that army that, army did nothing. The country was under martial law. A general was in charge. They made the decision. They allowed the genocide to happen. And he said, no, we had nothing to do. So that is one way of the thing. And for us, it is a struggle that started right after the birth in 1947, when Mr. Jinnah mentioned about, making Urdu as the national language. Out of nothing. It was not a requirement. Urdu was for a handful of people in Karachi. That's it. And we were the majority, 56%. So our language was denied. That was the starting point. Then it went through phases of movements and all this thing. Our father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, he spent 13 years out of 25 years of Pakistan period in jail. And so many leaders, so many sacrifices have been made, very movement. So what we call him, he is now told, termed as the poet of politics, where it was a comprehensive national aspirations and struggle. The economy, where our economists defined as a one country, two economy. The majority were here, and the foreign exchange came, 97% was coming from our jute and other goods exported from East Pakistan. And then, deprivation was to the height that it was another colony from British to Pakistan. So that struggle went on, and then gradually it became a struggle for autonomy. And then when an army, descended on us on a genocidal through Operation Searchlight in 1971, 25th March. So it turned into a war of liberation. So it didn't start from the blue. It had a history starting from 1947. So that's our narrative. The Indian narrative is what Ambassador Bambanwala has mentioned, is the humanitarian intervention as a responsible country. A genocide is going on because internal affairs is, problem and other thing goes on. But when it comes to genocide, one of our filmmakers, he made a documentary right in the first few days, Stop Genocide. Because when genocide goes on, you can't remain silent. You have to support that. So these are the competing sort of narratives. And what is important is our narratives should be well aligned. That's the starting point of our relationship, of our, So that what happens when we, personally, I meet any war veterans. We speak on that. So that's they have seen the midwifing process. So they speak the same language in the 16 December Victory Day reception. We are discussing in Dhaka, a group of veterans and General Mehta yesterday. It is the same language, same feeling that have. I think that should be the basis of our joint narrative. And that will signify the celebration of the joint Victory Day that we celebrate in 16th of December. Right, having said that, the South Asian situation, the security discourse, what I think is it's state-centric. The security issues are becoming a sacrosanct. the general people have a sort of barrier to become part of that discourse. And we have not been able to come out of that because the deep state will not allow that. Because intelligence and other, when you securitize the thing, then you have many advantages. And one country in South Asia, it has securitized to the extent that it is said that, every country has an army, and a particular country, the army has a country. So that's the sort of thing. So that needs to be broken. In this security discourse in South Asia, that is to be brought in where the human security, the expanded version of security has to be brought in. So if you are talking about state-centric security, it is formatted. You have to have you have to find the enemy if there is no enemy. You have to find some problem to, securitize that process. But when you talk about the human security, the food security, the energy security, then the situation changes. Then you have to look for the regional cooperation. So that thing has to come. And whenever I must congratulate PIC for taking up this subject and this lecture series. When this happens, then you hit the real issues. Then you can have a dialogue. With the state-centric security mindset, you cannot have a dialogue. You will have straight, this is I am great. And other will say, I am the greatest. And that will continue. There will be no headway. But when you bring to the human security, the expanded version of security, the food security, the energy security, the other aspects of security, now the climate change has become a menacing threat for us. These are our issues. What our Prime Minister says that, our problem is the poverty, hunger. More people in South Asia goes hungry while they go to bed. That's a shame. We can change that. That's in our grasp, and for that we need to go for the security cooperation. Now, another issue that comes in the context of security is the asymmetry. India is a big country, mighty country, and this is not unique. If you go to USA, the two neighbors, the Mexico and Canada, the same sort of sentiment. And Mexican poet, his poem says that the Mexico needs moonlight and a good neighbor. Is there moon and the neighbor? But the moon is so far away. Before we get the moonlight, we get the United States. That's the problem. And I was talking to the Canadian High Commissioner. He was telling that, we have the same ratio, 1:8, 8 times bigger. And in the USA, they openly said, we should have fought a war with Canada a long time back. So this is not unique. This is here. So this asymmetry, where the small neighbors, they feel insecure or they do not go along with the spirit. There comes the, I think, the civilizational value. I must distinguish between the civilizational thing and the civilization value. The Vasudeva Kudumbakam, there comes the thing. So there it brings a family. There you can bring this, the fear or the dogma of asymmetry to go away. And it is told by whom? By the big brother. Because if I say that, I want friendship and this, that really doesn't make matter. But when India says Vasudeva Kudumbam, it matters. Because then India has to draw its policies, its lessons, its thing from that spirit. And then, Vishva-mitrata, that spirit. So you have to draw from that. And for the neighbor, it is a look. This is your ethos. This is your civilizational spirit. You are violating that. So there comes the then this barrier of asymmetric situation, it can vanish. So there India has big responsibility, and again, the neighbors have to be on board. Otherwise, it's not going to work. Then South Asia is another, the wars were being fought. But there is a complex situation here. In the complexity is the population is a diverse thing. There are the issues like ethnicity, language. These are the big issues here. And I may make a sort of blunt statement. India fought 4 wars per se, let's say. 3 wars on Kashmir. One war is the war of Bangladesh liberation, where it supported Bangladesh, which didn't have anything of Kashmir. And then with China, the India-China war of 62. And then there are follow-up various constraints or the tensions that it is going on. So out of these, to my assessment, only Indo-China warfare was on border. Rest all are on ethnicity-related issues. Even in 1971 war, which doesn't have any relationship with the Kashmir issue, there also is root cause, not with India, but root cause with us and Pakistan was ethnicity. We are discriminated, hated upon an ethnic Bengali. That was the point of disagreement, ethnic Bengali. And less religious than, hyper-hypocrites Pakistan. On those two issues, we have been discriminated, and gradually the thing moved up to the war of liberation. So you see this ethnicity issues. And then if you look otherwise, the tension between Bangladesh and India. Again, ethnicity. CA and your NRC and all this thing. This has linked with this ethnicity issues. Then between Bangladesh and Myanmar, again ethnicity. Between Nepal and Bhutan, between other things, this link is there. So we have to solve those things. We have to appreciate, acknowledge that these are the issues. These issues have to be solved. Border, either in a question of sentiment, we love to securitize the border on that, but border has not been that big an issue than the other things that I mentioned. Now, another structural sort of thing in South Asia. India, economically, militarily, a dominant power. It's recognized. It is to be, except for one country in South Asia, others have no problem with that. Then Bangladesh is the forefront to accept that. Because when I accept it, then I ask for your leadership as a dominant player in this region. So there is a structural thing that, India being a dominant power, now it has, I should not say that will be a very strong word, a sense of insecurity, a sense of discomfort, when it sees that the smaller neighbors are ganging up with another external power. That is a concern. That's a fact, reality. And then for the smaller countries, their concern is that when, you have a good relationship with India, then other countries, the dealing is there. It is always bilateral, regional, and multilateral relations. There is no problem with it. But problem comes when you enter into the sensitive areas. So this structural thing, I think we have to have a mechanism to deal with the structural thing, because there is a dominant power, economical and military, and there are lesser powers. Other thing becomes important here, that If you see we are talking about the regional security issues. But before that, you have to have a political settlement of the issues. Like the SAARC, which was, our leader's brainchild and well supported by all the countries. And then, what happened, you know it. Now, in the path of history, the honors comes from India being the big brother. So you have to be magnanimous. You have to give leeway to the neighbors. So Indian position, as we see, they said, yes, we have been doing it. After the 1971 war, Shimla Agreement was the finest sort of instrument that has taken place. The 93,000 soldiers and the people were captive. And there was no twisting of the thing. Nothing was, taken so that, this issue becomes something by which you can have, there are things that, India could have resolved the Kashmir issue and all these things. Had that been the issue, then the Indian intention of helping Bangladesh liberation would have been in question. Why are you doing this? And the very instrument of surrender was an assurance by the General Manekshaw that if you surrender, then you will get full protection. And that was done. And that's what the point General Mehta has mentioned is the only in a just war in 71. So that went off. But after that, as is seen from outside, it comes the Gujarat Doctrine, and then, the bus diplomacy of Atal Bihari Vajpayee, and the surprise visit of Narendra Modi, Prime Minister, during, Nawaz Sharif's regime. So after each of these issues, the outcome was very bad for India. So, the hawks are there. That's in Bangladesh, that's in India, everywhere. That they, stand on the fence. When this thing happens, they come forward because they apply their, cynical mindset of the real politics. That you see, I told you that it cannot succeed. And now you see what is happening, that issue. So in this way, if we can get out of those ideas. Now, about the neighborhood first, it had been, as told, it had been existing earlier on, but it has to have a national stamping. That came under Prime Minister Narendra Modi in 2014 when it was announced, and inauguration, his Prime Minister inauguration, where all the leaders were brought in, and the principles of the neighborhood first was articulated. So from there on, if we see what has progressed, so there is a phenomenal progress between Bangladesh and India. And if I can quote the then Foreign Secretary, Dr. Jayashankar, he said that if only one example is to be quoted about the success of neighborhood first, then it is the Bangladesh-India relationship. That has progressed. What has happened? Our land boundary agreement, it was signed in 1974 during the Bangabandhu's time. And as per that agreement, Bangabandhu unilaterally, he gave the Berubari, handed over. That's a very sensitive one. And then the debacle came, and then, somebody went to the court in India, and it remained in doldrum. And then it was in 2014, 2015, this was again signed, the instrument was signed, and before that it has to go to the parliamentary ratification. And there, the border, as we mentioned, is so much important 1 inch of land cannot be given away. It is no political leader can afford it. So their constitution was amended, and the enclaves were exchanged, and Bangladesh got more land from India, a mighty India. So that's how it has taken time. It caused a lot of frustration in Bangladesh, a lot of anti-Indian sentiment in Bangladesh through the process. But you see how it has ended. It was in the parliament, all parties supported it. It was like the reminiscence of 1971, where Prime Minister Mrs. Gandhi announced the recognition of Bangladesh. You know, the moment she uttered, hereby India recognizes, it was so much, you know, the television, but the thumping and the dance and sound, she couldn't speak the rest of the thing. It was that moment. And again, 2015, it came back. So if you have the foundation, if you have that the jointness together, it can come back after so many decades, and it got done. The maritime boundary issue, you know the history, what is happening in South China Sea or maybe anywhere. The bigger players, they don't really care for the law of the sea. And United States, it has not even ratified, but it is going for the rule-based international order, not ratifying the law of the sea. There's the constitution for the maritime affairs. So our negotiations started in 1974 about the maritime boundary. Throughout my career, I have operated in contested sea. There was a deployment in 1979 as a young officer. There was a deployment of an Indian task force led by, at that time, Rear Admiral K.K. Nair. He was the task force commander. So we were, in that Talpoti Island area or a Newmoor Island area, eyeball to eyeball for months. So thereafter, I came to India for a course, and he was the FOC in South, Admiral Nair at that time. So he used to always smile when I sing. I asked one day that for Admiral, why do you smile? Oh, no, I just see that, I told him that I was in one of the boat. So he said that, you see, I was just thinking, we knew, both sides knew that we cannot shoot each other. But we are maneuvering in such a way that anything could happen. We are going towards an Indian ship with the intent to, in earlier days of the naval warfare, to ram each other. That was the situation for a month. So with all this thing came and it continued, and then it appeared that the negotiation will lead nowhere, because no government of the day will be able to give anything to another country. So again with the Myanmar, the same thing, the issue. So we went to the arbitration process, and it was possible because of India's going along with the process, and India accepted it. So that arbitration process came, the verdict was accepted, and that's a unique example for solving the maritime boundary issue. Now, another thing is the involvement of the outside powers. So there are two classical geopolitical approach here. One is for an outside power. Who is the dominant power in South Asia? India. Okay, ally with him, and allow India to have a free hand to deal with the other smaller Johnnies, the other neighbors, other countries. This is one approach. So there comes the problem with whenever the smaller countries, they see that India has been given a free hand, they look for another friend to compete with India. So there, my request would be, whenever you are given a free hand to deal with the neighbors, don't accept it. Because there you are putting the problem, you are inviting another player here. So that should be taken care of. So with these issues, now let's coming to the specific thing about India-Bangladesh. From neighborhood first, 2014 run-up that you see, the connectivity is a very sensitive issue in Bangladesh. It is the Prime Minister Hasina is blamed for, surrendering the sovereignty. You have given everything. Even which India didn't want, you have given that. There are three things. One is the river protocol that was signed in 1974. The agreement, then we have signed further protocols, and that is making good headway because using the river route, you can reach the northeast. You can reach various other places. Then we have agreement on the use of two ports, the Chittagong and Mongla port. So there, again, it was a big issue in Bangladesh that you have given the ports and, India is going to occupy these ports. And there is a, yeah, sure, yeah. And there was a clause in the agreement that on a particular day, if there's an Indian ship, it will get the privilege of, we have a long waiting time for the ships. It will have the privilege of getting to the harbor immediately. So that's the thing, the business community, they came that we are already in shipping logjam. Now you have given India this one, they will go. Now Prime Minister, she understood the thing. They let the thing start. Then we'll see what is the problem. Now, this is not making good progress because it is the business people who have to use the ports. They are not yet, coming in the equation of the loss and profit thing. And the connectivity through rail, road, other things, that is progressing very fast. Connection with the Northeast and connection with the other, very, very fast. And that's how you have, the largest number of tourists or the people coming from Bangladesh. And that's how I got stuck up for my visa, for where they all had to, the machine said that my visa would be considered on 30th of December. And I was supposed to come on 17th. How much volume, it has been system upgraded, but it's simply overwhelmed because a number of people coming here. And the issues that are bothering us is, number one, is the Tista River thing and the other common rivers. Now, Indian position, Indian hawk position is that, you see, we have our problem. Look at Telangana and Andhra. Even in last month, I think, 30th of November, the Andhra police that went into that Krishna River and they opened the dam and, had it been an armed conflict situation, they would have fought a war. So that is the situation. But please note that these are international rivers. There are international rules that is to be complied with. And Bangladesh needs water. And you don't have to, the hawks, they can solve anything. But you have to tell them that, look, what is happening on the north, up north. Now there's a glacier manipulation there. So again, India will have problem. And then down the thing, Bangladesh will have problem. So what is required is a whole of the region approach to solve this water issue. Then with this comes the border. It has been solved. It's a matter of celebration. But the one thing remains is the border killing. That is a very, very sensitive issue in Bangladesh. In all the joint communique between the Prime Minister's visit, every time there is a clause of solving this issue. But again, through the bureaucracy, through the Hawks process, it doesn't filter down and it has reduced, but it is not eliminated. So my point is that unless you change the rules of engagement at the border with Bangladesh, it's not going to go away. Because the soldiers there, the BSF people, they have to follow one set procedure. Unless that is changed, it's going to remain. That must be a thing, because our border is because this is the only border is a marked international border. Otherwise, you have a line of control, line of actual control, and maybe other innovative names will come. But here is the border settled and through negotiation. So that should be done. About the trade imbalance, we have 16 billion plus. Our trade is increasing. It is 2 billion now. Now, with the cooperation, it can increase. So, as Ambassador told yesterday, is unless you have the joint prosperity, then the regional cooperation will not flourish. So let's have a joint prosperity. Let's prosper together, which was emphasized here today. So like that, there are issues there, but at the conclusion, I'll say one thing, that if you consider 3 words, yesterday, today, and tomorrow. In the word yesterday, there is no O. In word today, there is single O. In word tomorrow, there are a couple of O's. We look at the past to take the stock and go ahead. But in yesterday, there's no opportunity. No opportunity for regional cooperation or doing something. You can just take lesson. But today, there is opportunity. Let's take that opportunity so that for the future, you have double opportunity. We go towards that. And that's possible, which Bangladesh and India has placed together. Where you can mention, because we will demand that, you see, you have midwifed our births. You have to do it. And India can say, because we were in humanitarian intervention, so you have to take care of our sensitivities. That's there. And likewise, if we go incorporate the problem that we have resolved, it cannot be resolved through war even. But it has been resolved through dialogue. I think that's the spirit of today's deliberation. Let's go for that. Let's have dialogue and accept that we have problem. Then only thing, the denial is not going to take us anywhere. Accept the problems, then see that how it can be resolved. Then I'm sure with the spirit of Vasudeva, Divikaman, and the spirit of Vishva-mitrata, it is all problems are open to solution, and it can be resolved. Bangladesh and India had been resolving it, and in future we'll have more opportunities. Thank you very much for your patient hearing.
So I think he couldn't have put it better than what he has said for the way forward of dialogue and accepting that there are problems, and those problems need to be tackled up front. I think that's the takeaway. There are several other points that we'll mention maybe if we have time. But we'll take questions after the second presentation. And let me invite Colonel Nalin Herath. He don't go by his young looks. He's a 30-year-old veteran in Sri Lanka Army and has tenanted very important assignments. Of course, several command staff positions as you usually do in the Army. He's also served in UN mission in Morocco. And currently, I think he has a larger kind of a role to play, where he's the director of the military, he's the media spokesperson for the Sri Lankan military in the Ministry of Defense, as I mentioned, and also Director General and Acting Director of the Institute of National Security Studies, which is run by the Ministry of Defense Sri Lanka. They also run the newly started National Defense College course for brigadiers and equivalent officers in Sri Lanka. So I invite you to give us your thoughts on what are the issues on security. I think he has a PowerPoint presentation.
Lieutenant General Vinay Patankar and Chair, and Lieutenant General Ajay Kumar Singh, sir, and Lieutenant General Pawan Pandey, and Rear Admiral Awal, and former diplomats, all military officers, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. First of all, let me extend my sincere gratitude to Pune International Center for extending me this invitation. And I can remember when I was watching the video of General Rawat, Bipin Rawat, this crash landing. I was watching in Times India, Times Now, Indian channel. So I just watch it to get Indian information. So I saw the story and I quickly ran to Defense Secretary. Then he asked me, what's the issue? I said, sir, I have a bad news. Then what happened? Then I said the story. My goodness, how it happened? Then he said, just post a condolence message on our website. So then that's how we did, and this is how I informed this message to Defense Secretary. And if somebody asks from me, what is the world politics today? What is the world international relations? This is the best example I can explain you. I will avoid certain things and I'll directly go to Sri Lankan context. And let me start this my session with the last year people struggle. And there are certain information, it's not available, it's not recorded. I will share this story with you all since I believe that this is maybe Chatham House rule, but we have to know what really happened. When the people when people lose their basic needs, that's the ultimate result is they are coming to the streets. The first time in the history, in Sri Lankan history, democratically elected president was chased out. He had a military background. And only thing is, we could save him and we facilitated a smooth transition of power. And ladies and gentlemen, you don't know, there were 2 days in Sri Lanka without a government. That is 2022, May 10 and 11. No president, no prime minister, no government. Most of the government's ministers, their residences were destroyed, around 70, and it was utter chaos. But along the Defense Secretary and the Tri-Forces commanders and CDS, and that time CDS and command was both General Savencillo and Defense Secretary, and along with other IGP, this system was functioning. And I had some connection with NDTV that Srija was with me and she got some information, and there were a lot of fake news also. And I had to counter certain fake news about Sri Lanka. And there was a big news was publishing fake news that Indian army landed to Mattala with some pictures, Mitra Sakti pictures, that news was circulating all over the social media. Indian army has landed in order to support the Sri Lankan government and Rajapaksa's regime. That was the news. Then the Defense Secretary asked me, what shall we do? Then we said, I will release a press release and we'll explain it. So we just released the press release that it mentioning that it was a fake news. And after that, there was a kind of transition period because there was no president, no prime minister, no actually functioning government. So later on, what happened? Present president came to power as prime minister. Then later on, he became the president of Sri Lanka. Now he is running the country. And if I directly go to challenges, even though we have an economic crisis, we have to function our navy because there are huge areas in the sea to concern about the maritime security. So that is because of this strategic location and the with other requirements, we could not avoid it. So he was having all these economic crises. This is a huge challenge for Sri Lanka to maintain the maritime security. And other one is transnational crimes, that because Sri Lanka is considered as a kind of transit hub of when it comes to drugs, illegal drugs. And therefore, it's another area we have another challenge, especially for the Sri Lankan government, and especially for public security ministry. And military was not deployed, but at the moment, I think day before yesterday, so Sri Lankan government started another kind of operation to counter and to get these all illegal drug traffickers and some underworld leaders. And other one is the collective efforts aim to fortify the security landscape of Sri Lanka. And next one, now I mentioned about the economic crisis. When we had the economic crisis, so that neighborhood first policy came, that is, it was India. There were a lot of queues of fuel, and there is a scarcity of gas, and there were a lot of issues. Even some basic food items was not available. And a major problem came with the fuel. And India offered us $3.8 billion. And China had offered us around $4.2 billion. But within short period, in order to overcome our economic challenges, India offered $3.8 billion. And the important thing, Indian High Commissioner in Sri Lanka, Honorable His Excellency Bagle, he negotiated the Indian credit line for supplying of fuel. Normally, to negotiate such kind of deal, it takes around 2 or 3 months. But with the effort of High Commissioner, he negotiated this deal within 3 weeks. This is how India helped us to overcome this fuel crisis. So with the Indian credit line, we got that. So that was kind of solution to reduce this fuel queues. Then we generated later on QR code, and after that we were able to sort it out without any problem. And my worry is, if this Middle East conflict is going to continue further, this will affect for the oil crisis. Then definitely high crude oil prices definitely hinder the economy. That is my worry. And other one is adverse effects on foreign remittances due to Israel war, because there are 9,000 Sri Lankans in Israel, and not only in Sri Lanka, but most of the South Asians are there. So if this conflict is going to drag further, it will affect for the Sri Lankan economy, because we are going to lose the remittances and people reluctant to go to Israel. And we have a foreign policy challenges and facing growing geopolitical tensions. Ladies and gentlemen, you are very aware that there are key players in this region, especially when it comes to Sri Lankan geopolitics. That is, number one is USA, then China, and India. So India's main concern is their security. So whenever Chinese ship is coming to Sri Lanka, I am the one who is always affected. Every media is calling and asking when this Chinese ship is coming. And last time, any time I may lose the job sometimes, because again there is another ship is coming. So day before yesterday somebody was asking, is there another ship? Then I asked, why do you worry about only Chinese ships? There are other ships also coming. That's how I just deviated. And now as a result, now government, foreign ministry has released the SOP for this research naval vessels. So that has been published and it has been dispatched to our missions, foreign missions. So now it has been sorted out, hopefully. and there won't be any security concern for India, especially Indian Prime Minister very specifically mentioned to our President, and our President guaranteed that whatever the action is taken place in Sri Lanka will not hamper the security of India. And we are passing the third line of radicalization now. The first one is after 9/11 attack. Then the second one was after declaring the ISIS caliphate. And third one after 7th October Hamas attack to Israel. So this potential radicalization is another concern, and especially Nitin mentioned about the Easter Sunday attack. We never expected. We are in a very unpredictable world. Who expected the Hamas attack? So everybody was thinking that deterrent is working, but Israel deterrent was not working. And I watched Nitin's interview with Lieutenant General Raj Shukla, I think. He mentioned about having the sophisticated military in the world, having 800 foreign military bases, and having 11 aircraft carriers. The deterrent did not work for USA, that's what he mentioned. And I was thinking, so deterrent strategy is, it has to be realigned or something has to be done. We have to review it. So, and I can remember Nitin mentioned that deterrent is expensive, but wars are more expensive. And other one is, other challenge is the poaching, illegal fishing. This is another issue always coming up on the table whenever especially from Tamil Nadu side, and Sri Lankan navies always trying to resolve this matter without further dragging, because most of our reconnaissance, all these activities actually physical presence. We are yet to integrate the technology for this, especially when it comes to reconnaissance and the surveying, and it has to be physically done. That's why I said we need to do a lot of patrolling by the Navy. So in that case, it has actually that it's a political level initiative that has to be sorted out. And another challenge is reconciliation with Tamils. And of course, we finished the war in 2009, and this is 2023, and we are about to go to 2024. So a long time has been passed. But only thing I know that the ordinary people, Tamil people, they don't want any conflict, because we all suffered, including them, as Sri Lankans. So there are certain political elements, they are trying to manipulate certain information, especially disinformation, and they are trying to create unnecessary issues. That's the problem. But it doesn't depict the reality of the common Tamil people. And other one is disinformation resilience. So last week we had one webinar, and Nitin also joined online, virtually joined. So there we discussed how we are going to mitigate or counter this disinformation. So how we are going to form up a kind of resilience mechanism to counter. This is not going to be a problem for only Sri Lanka. So worldwide is going to be a problem. When there is a conflict, the information warfare is playing a huge role. Now we have seen it, how it happened in Ukraine-Russia war and even in Gaza Strip. And that is another thing we have to focus on. And apart from that, if we talk about opportunities, so India and Sri Lanka, we have a lot of bilateral relations when it comes in terms of economy and defense and even tourism, cultural engagement that's happening. I think because we have a huge, long history, and we received our Buddhism from India, from Asoka. So likewise, that cultural and religious bond is there. So that is the most important thing. So India can further engage with Sri Lankans, and especially when it comes to the economy, And India is always helping, assisting to especially restructuring our loans with other stakeholders like World Bank and China. China was reluctant to do, but at the latter part they agreed to do. And when it comes to the military diplomacy, Sri Lanka and the Indian military, we have a huge understanding, huge engagement, huge cooperation. That is, I must say that it is, I think, on the line and on the track. There is no any issue. And one thing what India can do, India can assist us to capacity building modes, like we in the Navy, if we take our Navy, Air Force, and there is a scarcity of resources. And India can assist us in the capacity building nature. They can engage and they can support. And especially now at the moment, Australia is doing that. And Australia is supporting financially for Sri Lanka, especially the ministry, defense ministry, and to counter illegal human trafficking. So likewise, and India also can further engage with the capacity building of Sri Lankan, especially military and our disaster management capabilities. And I think India must assist Sri Lanka for formulating kind of disaster management mechanism. Today we are experiencing a lot of disasters everywhere. And recent past we have seen a lot of earthquakes starting from Nepal, Turkey, Morocco, and this is other disasters also. Even naval disaster, there is no any strong resilience to mitigate these kind of things. We had a very bad experience about that ship. There was a ship which was actually met with an accident with some chemical. We didn't have any mechanism. So in that case, I think India can assist and give some kind of assistance to formulate this disaster response mechanism. That is, I think, very important as a country and as a region. And as I said, Sri Lanka is really concerned about Indian security. So that security apparatus, there is no issue. I guarantee, even our president also guaranteed that. And last week we had the Colombo Security Dialogue in Mauritius Island. Yes, but Maldives was absent. And even there, we know that there are some issues with other partners like Pakistan. And what Sri Lanka can do as a neutral country, Sri Lanka can do some backdoor diplomacy in order to take these partners all on the table. Now, we know that just after election of Maldives, so there was some kind of political tensions happened in Maldives. That government is Chinese, it was leaning towards China. So I think maybe because of that political issue of political concerns, they did not attend for this Colombo Security Dialogue. So I think Sri Lanka can do some backdoor diplomacy, and in order to get these parties also on the table, if there is opportunity and if India is supporting us. And yesterday Ambassador was mentioning about the economic engagement. So I think somebody has to take that leadership. That somebody is not other than India. So India must take that leadership, and that prosperity is common for everyone. That is everyone's ambition. And we should act as a region. And that, in order to formulate that regional resilience, regional engagement, I think there is no anyone except India, that India has they should take that initiative and take the leadership role in order to function, in order to move as a region in future. I think that is the most important thing what India can do, and especially formulating disaster response mechanism. So that is a very important thing India must address, and India must assist to all other regional countries also, including Sri Lanka. And these are the areas I just want to mention. Let me finish my speech with this quote. I quote, "Only a fool learns from his own mistakes. The wise man learns from the mistakes of others." Otto von Bismarck. We have to learn all these conflicts, and we have to learn and formulate a resilience as a region that India must take that leadership. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for this.
So I think the last quote that Colonel Nalin Herath has given us tells us what we should avoid, and we should look at mistakes made in the other regions, I suppose. But as you sort of formulate your questions or queries or comments, I have just two points that I'm going to sum up. I'm not going to attempt to sum up their excellent presentations. Just two issues that they mentioned separately, but one common thread, that common prosperity, double opportunity, as Admiral Awal mentioned, double O, we must look at, which I think even Colonel Herath also mentioned, that if the region has to pull its weight together, then we have to work together on various issues. And the leadership, again, both of them mentioned, has to be taken by India, which is the big country in this region. Therefore, we must look at them, look at their points that they have made, and 2 points each, both of them made. One was Admiral Awal's issue about the hawks in the systems. Everywhere there are hawks in all the systems. So he flagged the Tista water sharing issue, other river water sharing issue, rules of engagement on the border, and of course the contestation on the outside forces. And more importantly, I think for India and Bangladesh, the ethnicity issue. There have been some discomfort about the CAA and the NRC. I think there needs to be more dialogue on that, as I can see. That's where I think Bangladesh has its concerns. As far as Sri Lanka is concerned, I think Colonel Nalin has clearly mentioned that they need assistance in building their capacity for disaster relief. And of course, the Colombo Security Conclave, which is now the regional security architecture that has been drawn up in the past 4 or 5 years, they have already offered the secretariat in Colombo. Hopefully Maldives will also come on board as they go forward. But the disaster management capacity building, I think, is a great point to take forward. One more irritant, which I think he didn't mention, which occasionally comes up, not occasionally, very frequently comes up in private in my interactions with the Sri Lankans, is the inability of the Indian government or the Indian Ministry of Defense to revive participation of the Sri Lankan officers in the Defense Services Staff College in Wellington because of the domestic compulsions that we still continue to have and the political compulsions that are there. Even the presidents have flagged it, 2 successive presidents twice, and saying that why can't our officers go to Staff College, because many of them miss that expertise and that course which they should be doing actually in Wellington. So I'll stop here. I'm sure there are questions and comments, and we have exactly 15 minutes, I think, or 10 minutes rather, if I have to finish by 1:05 or 1:10. So I have General Brar here, and can we have a mic here for the, or you have another mic? Yes. Yeah, because it's not good for them to keep coming here and going back. They're good for the lunch. Yes, it will whet your appetite, but I'm sure the questions will whet your appetite. So, General Brar, over to you. And please address
Thank
the
you,
question.
sir. Thank you for a very candid and erudite thought. I'll take my thing from the last. India has to take leadership, but the region has to give leadership and accept India's leadership. And when we are talking of a family, then there cannot be any interference. Within a family, if you want something to be resolved, then there can be no interference. So my indication is to, you see, any region which has not developed, there are outside powers which are using. You can take Africa. Africa is a very good country, everything can develop. So my indication is to China's. Now, had Pakistan been on its own, India's relation with Pakistan could have been on a different track, but because of those support. Same is a question with Nepal also to some extent, and same is question to some extent to Bhutan and to Bangladesh and to Sri Lanka. So the elephant in the room is China. If this factor goes away, the relationship between the region countries will be on a different scale. And if this is recognized by everybody, because, you know, outside power, to an extent, the US also makes the most of situation with Pakistan. When they need Pakistan, they use them and then they dump them. So the region cannot develop if we get direct as a family, the Vasudev Kutum. So this has to be, I think, I don't know what, it's not a question, it's more of a comment, so I don't know how you feel about it.
Okay. I'll take a couple of more questions. Let me give this privilege to the lady here, who's also our MC first, and then come to others. Let us take a bunch of questions, maybe 2 or 3, and then ask our panelists to respond to them.
My question is to Rear Admiral Aval. Sir, India is a sort of a federal country, and you have faced certain issues with the West Bengal state government refusing to cooperate in the Teesta Waters Sharing Agreement. Whereas on the other hand, there is a state like Tripura, which has always had very close relationship with Bangladesh. It has historical relationship with Bangladesh. All the CMs of Tripura have very actively engaged with the leadership in Bangladesh. So how do you view Indian federalism? How does Bangladesh deal with Indian federalism with such different experiences?
I'm sure it's a googly, but yeah. One more question. Anybody? Yeah, they're right there. Yeah.
Thank you. The chairman, in his opening remarks, mentioned about 2005-06, the Elam War 2 or 4, whatever you call it, and India's involvement in it. Nobody talks about it. It was a secret mission. I happened to be the Indian commander, contingent commander in Sri Lanka at that time, and we did help wholeheartedly for you to fight the LTT air power, shot down all their aircraft, and which helped a lot in winning the war. The point is, while I was there, even then when I was helping them, I could sense many moments where the normal man in Sri Lanka, normal people in Sri Lankan force, a bit hostile to India because of whatever past experiences. When asked, they quoted me examples that Indians have always been attacking Sri Lanka, right from Lord Ram to Cholas and whosoever. Is that kind of a hostile attitude still prevailing in your country? If so, why? And what extra do you expect India to do to overcome that thing? Because there is no standing dispute between you and us. There is no water dispute. There is no border dispute. What is it that you want our country to do to make it more friendly?
I think it's quite clear, but let me ask the panelists to respond. Admiral Lawal, that observation and then those 2 questions from the lady.
Yeah, lady has to come first. About the federal structure, for that matter, any structure in Bangladesh, let's leave it. It's a sovereign entity. This is India's problem. Whatever in Bangladesh is Bangladesh's problem. But the problem that we are facing, we have to be on that. The federal structure, had it been a situation that no, the central government is instigating the state to take a position, and then central government will say, what can I do? The state is not coming on board. But that's not the situation. The agreement was ready for signing on 2 successive prime ministerial meetings. The Mamata Didi was also called in. Now, she had a very good relationship with our prime minister. So she was telling that the Hilsha fish is not coming. And our Prime Minister said that, let the water come, the fish will go. So it is to that level. We have to understand that between India and Bangladesh, there are issues, and we can deal with living with these thorny things. Because for her, it's a survival. It's a vote bank. That's any politician for vote bank, it will let other thing go to the hell. But the vote bank has to be saved, or the perceived vote bank issue. But what is important is that the central government is trying, not trying, is pressurizing. And then the parliamentary committee has come up that this needs to be solved. We can't let it like this. So that's the level we have, and we have understanding. But Janata, the people will not understand these complications. They will have the negative take, which is worrying. So that needs to be resolved. And it's not the one water, we have 54 rivers. And this is an issue which needs to be resolved in our regional interest. And this is not the question about India and Bangladesh. It's a region that has to come on board. And there the thing. About the general's thing, I agree. But the thing is that I'm talking about Bangladesh. We accept it. That's we declare during our prime ministers or other levels of thing, that you are the leader. Give leadership. Make the SAARC workable. We know the problem, but let's move around and let's see how to make it run. The BIMSTEC, it is going slow, but it has been chartered now. It is a chartered thing. We want to have more countries. Only Southeast Asia, the Bhutan, Thailand and Maldives, Myanmar is there. We want to have other countries so that we have a Bay of Bengal community. So it becomes real BIMSTEC. And that goes in favor of the Indian Actist policy, Bangladesh's Lookist policy. We all want the access to Southeast Asia. And the way forward is the structural thing, the BIMSTEC. And we must make the BBIN reality, because that sub-regional initiative, it is blocking many things. If, when you have a big brother in a family, whatever happens, the finger goes to the big brother. You have not done enough. If the Bhutan, I've been interacting with the Bhutanese delegations and all. The business people, they say, no, we have no problem. The problem is somewhere else. And in general, Bangladesh, the hawks have feeling, no, India has told Bhutan to, block it. So this is the situation. But now there's a move on Bhutanese side. If the BVIN becomes successful, then it will be strong message for the entire South Asia and the region beyond. Because that will open up a lot of things. And as I said, you have to take care of the hawks. There are, many communiques, the mentions about the transit facility between Nepal, Bangladesh, and Bhutan, Bangladesh. It's there as a point, but it has to go through the system. It doesn't go. The Nepalese ambassador, he went to the border. So he was asked that, what about the transit? So the diplomat, he has to say, no, when you will see the trucks are coming, moving, without any day-to-day basis of approval and all, then it will be okay. Now, the thing is that the hawks in the system, they want it to be an occasional thing. It has to be approved by case, not a transit. But that, I think, we are moving towards a resolution and that. So this is the thing. Our position is that it's not something which we cannot solve. And that solution is for our mutual interest. And there we want the leadership. We can't ask India that, no, you have to deploy forces there for my protection. It's not like that. So we have to do that. And just another issue, as the time is not there, there are two thoughts in Bangladesh. Let me tell you frankly, as is the Chatham House. One is what we call the armpit convention. That is, Bangladesh is surrounded by India on three sides. And had there been no resolution of the maritime boundary issue, then it would be blocked, zone-locked at sea thing. And if the hawks will come up, again that it has been resolved, but the sea lines of communication, the Andaman Nicobar is there. So you have nowhere to go. You are under the armpit of India. So what do? You create irritation. By irritation, we'll keep on irritating it. So I was telling in one of the seminar that it's fine, create irritation, but you see the children's cartoons, when the big guy is irritated, he takes that irritation and then it gets that small Johnny and throws in a way that it hurts that irritator. And if you have continuous process of irritation, like our Western neighbor had been as a national policy for that, after 2-3 irritation, you will not have any strength to irritate. You will have your own drag. So let's look at the way that India and Bangladesh is two friendly countries, where the India's support was monumental through the liberation of Bangladesh, the humanitarian intervention. It borders with India on sides, and particularly borders with Northeast India, where there's a huge opportunity for contributing to the development of Northeast India, by which there will be benefit for both the countries, India. And if you have this common prosperity, if you have this common jointness, then your sea lines of communication is guaranteed to be open, not by irritation. Thank you.
I just give it to Nalinda. I think.
Yes, so your questions. If we look at India-Sri Lanka relations after independence, so both the countries fought together to achieve the independence. So after the independence, I think India, Sri Lanka, we had a smooth relationship, especially when Prime Minister Indira Gandhi was here and Madam Sirimavo. Both were they had a very good mutual understanding. Even Madam Sirimavo, she was able to get Kachati without any problem. And the problem arose in 1978 with the foreign policy, and we all aware that we are very much familiar with the foreign policies of our neighbors, that time government was leaning towards UK and USA. So it was one of the reasons to India look at towards Sri Lanka in a different way. So we know that LTT was a brainchild of Indira Gandhi. There is nothing hidden. We know that. It's there in the media. It's there. There are a number of books about that. And even now, there was a 10 years war in Vietnam with the US and Viet Congs. Now what happened now? Now both are trading. They have a lot of bilateral relations. So that mistakes can happen. Strategic blunders can happen. And so because of that reason, there was some kind of, and especially Operation Pumale, that violation of Sri Lankan airspace by Indian Air Force and dropping Dal in Jaffna area. And there's another issue that Prabhakaran was captured. And I am not fully aware of that, but I heard that I was a small boy that time, in 1987. Prabhakaran was captured and India asked to release him. This kind of stories are going on. But later on, most of the leaders, political leaders, they realized that there should be a smooth kind of relationship and good mutual understanding with India. So that's why whenever there is a new leader, president or prime minister coming to power in Sri Lanka, normally they make the first visit to India. That's the importance we have given to India. We realize that. So mistakes can happen.
Yeah.
So that is the developing the understanding and the mutual understanding. That dialogue has to be there. So there is no any issue or any anti-Indian slogan from public, because everyone knows that India directly, without hesitation, India assisted Sri Lanka to overcome the economic crisis. And offering $3.8 billion. They never asked when are you going to pay, how you are going to pay, but they offered.
Yeah.
So that the sentiment is, I think, that's understanding is there. And I know that there is no any anti-Indian slogans. At the moment, public is fully aware that without Indian assistance or Indian support, that understanding, Sri Lanka cannot, there is no way forward. That is very important. So that is the common public also, it's, they understand that.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, both my fellow panelists here. Thank you, the audience. We are run out of time, so I'm going to end here. All that that privilege you have, sir. I cannot stop you. But yes. Right. Can you have a mic to Mr. Kelkar, please? I cannot deny you the privilege.
No, I just want to partly reiterate the point that I made yesterday. But you know, I had the unique honor to represent Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. I was elected by the governments and India on the IMF board. I must tell, when I went to call on, before I left for Washington, I called on the Prime Minister of India and Finance Minister of India. Both of them told me following things. That Vijay, you have to defend the interests of Bangladesh and Sri Lanka as much, if not more, than our interest. These were the instructions to me. And one of the important fight which we did was increasing the quota rights of this country, so they have higher access to the resources of the fund and also higher weight in the policy making. So I just wanted to mention this, that this much sort of commitment is there at the highest political level in terms of how we relate to our neighborhood. And one more instance, I can't avoid mentioning this because it goes across the party line. I was Petroleum Secretary when former Vice President of the United States, he was President of Halliburton and Company, Cheney. He came to visit India. And this is about starting a pipeline, gas pipeline. They were going to implement it. So I took him to see Prime Minister, who was at that time completely different party, completely different region, namely Devgowdaji. Again, he told Ms. Halliburton, make an arrangement which is acceptable to Bangladesh. What is acceptable is acceptable to us. And he gave the commitment to lift every molecule of gas which will come from Bangladesh. Right. So what I'm saying that there is, at the micro and macro level, there is a complete, across the party lines, commitment to this willingness to be really part of the family. Right. And do as much as we can to best of our abilities.
Absolutely. So in fact, you couldn't have said it better because we all know that the goodwill exists. There are these irritants like has been mentioned, but those can be overcome. So all that remains for me to say is thank you, and please give them a round of applause. I think it was brilliant presentations. Thank you very much. And I hand over to General Partner for the next session.